welcome to Procurement Pivots, the podcast for procurement professionals wanting to navigate change successfully and create career success on your own terms. I'm Donna Bowden, procurement career coach and founder of Narrate Your Career.
And I'm Laura Sellers, executive coach for procurement and founder of Coaching for Procurement. And between us, we bring almost 25 years of supporting and working with procurement professionals. And it's fair to say we've navigated many of our own career pivots along the way. And now we're here to help you do the same.
Each episode will share practical strategies, honest conversations, and expert insights to help you confidently tackle the changes and challenges in your procurement career.
Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Procurement Pivots Podcast, where we are making a pivot of our own. We are, after having done a backlog of lots of episodes based on our Pivots acronym, which if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that we've chosen subjects that are relevant, but which sit within the Pivots name. We're taking a bit of a different turn for this new year, 2026. And with this being the first episode of the new year, we're going to make a start now on a new series. So would you like to explain a bit more, Donna?
Absolutely, I would love to. But for anyone tuning in live, Happy New Year to you.
Yes.
And really hope that, you had a good end to the year and you've, had a nice bit of time off if you're working. So, Happy New Year. So in terms of the next few episodes. So we've broken down this series into 4 parts, and we know that right now so many of you are going to be planning ahead for 2026. We know that so many of you are probably going to be looking at setting all the goals, the job related goals, the career goals, the personal goals, and so we just thought this would be a really great time to kind of focus in a bit more specific detail about, just giving you some help and support really to not only set those goals for yourself, but to set yourself up for success in doing that, because we've all been there, setting these goals, particularly at the beginning of the year, and then very quickly life gets in the way, work gets in the way, maybe it doesn't quite go to plan, because let's be honest, things often don't go to plan, and then suddenly you just put it to one side and that's it, it's done. So we don't want that for you. We want to help you with identifying what are those right things that you actually most want to focus on this year, but actually giving you the tools and the support to be able to essentially set yourself up for success and give yourself the best opportunity of making that happen for yourself. So as we said, it's like a 4-part series, and each week, and this one is different, we would encourage you to follow these ones week by week, and do them in order, which is different to our other episodes. So it's slightly different feel, which we're really excited about for the beginning of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for taking everyone through that, because it is a different way of doing this. And like you say, we wouldn't normally say you need to listen to this one first, because what we'd like to think of is that we're building a library of resources for procurement professionals. But I think with it being the start of a new year and doing this series in this way, like we know, so many New Year's resolutions fall flat because life gets in the way, our habits get in the way. And so being coaches, we work with goals all the time. And we also know that the more well-formed a goal is, the more achievable it can be. And that's, like you say, what we want for our listeners, we want for our clients and anyone in our networks. We want people to be able to achieve what it is they want to achieve and not let anything get in the way of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really excited to get started. So shall we get started then with today's? Yes. So
definitely.
So what are we talking about today then?
Well, we're going to start by breaking it down into getting specific on what the goal is. But I just want to say as well, as part of this series, I don't know whether people listen to this while they're commuting to work or whether they're at home, but it would be good to note down with pen and paper anything on here, because actually I think it's something like 42% of goals are more achievable when they are written down. because you're publicly stating a commitment, so to speak. So if you are not able to do that because you're driving, we don't want to encourage
Yeah.
unsafe driving.
No.
We have our weekly newsletter on our LinkedIn page, which will give you some bullet points to work from, which comes out the next day after the episode is released. So
Yeah.
if you're not in a position to write down right now, make sure you're following the newsletter and our company page on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to get the exercises from there too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And we will be, I think, throughout this series, like actually some of the things we're going to be talking about, we know that some of our previous episodes are going to be quite relevant. And so we will also in the newsletter let you know of any of those prior episodes that might be particularly useful to kind of go back to. Because if we're talking about a topic and you're not sure about that particular topic, it might be that there's another episode that it would be helpful just to kind of listen in. But I think just to kind of add as well, um, you know, we've already said, you know, a lot of those New Year's resolutions, you know, that they're out the window by the time you get to kind of week 3 in January. We've all been there. We include
yeah,
ourselves in this. Um,
definitely.
but I think also, like right now, you know, for those of you that are tuning in live, you know, many of you will be back at work now this week. You know, some of you have had a nice, hopefully a nice few weeks off or certainly days off. And very quickly, you know, things get really busy this month. You know, we know that all of a sudden your stakeholders are back, your boss is back, your team are back, all their meetings are getting put in the diary, new projects are kicking off, you know, starting to look at new financial year budgets, etc. Like it's all going on. And I think for those of you that are in transition, um, in between roles, we know that probably you may have had a little bit of a break from the job searching, but actually many of you will be continuing with or starting your searches, I would imagine, right now. And often I think we put ourselves under a lot of pressure to get all the stuff done at the beginning of the month, but we know there's going to be a lot of other stuff going on this month. And so
Yeah.
we also wanted to break this down for you so that it's manageable and so that, you know, each week we're giving you the tools to kind of really think about and then implement different parts of this so that by the end of January, having listened to the series of 4, you're going to be in a much stronger position to actually set yourself up to achieve that goal this year. So it's about spacing it out and giving yourself proper time at each part of the process to think it through.
Yeah, yeah, perfectly explained. So yeah, so then the first question then that I guess we need people to really reflect on, and we're going to take inspiration from some great goal setting tools that are out there, by the way. So we've, you know, there's a great well-formed outcomes one that I love to work from, and we're going to get specific. So let's just focus on that first question. What is it you want to achieve this year? It's
Mm,
a simple question, but I
yeah,
want you to also consider not only what is what you want, but to state it in the positive. So rather than, and I don't know if this happens to you, Donna, but sometimes people come to a session and they at the beginning of coaching and they might say, well, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this anymore. We focus on what do you want? Moving
mm,
away from what you don't want because we're going to put our focus onto the positive on what you
yeah,
do want.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so this part really is all about kind of, you know, figuring out those things that you most want. And actually for any of you that listened to our last episode last week, we were talking about actually when you reviewed last year, you know, when you think about last year, what are those things that you're most proud of? And I think also when it comes to kind of, you know, setting this goal for yourself, and it may or may not be a goal for the year, but it's actually really thinking, you know, if I'm really proud with the outcome, what does that look like? What am I most likely to feel really proud about?
Mm.
That's another really nice way of kind of, you know, of actually thinking about, you know, what are the things that actually matter most?
Yeah, and I think that's a great additional question to add on to this because the what do you want's not always even clear, but you want to maybe think of other questions such as what do you want it to do? Where do you want it? Who do you want to be? because it could be about who we want to be or what
Yeah,
we want to do. So that goal is going to look and feel different for everybody. So when we're saying about that first question of what do you want, we're really trying to interrogate the details of what that might look for you in
yeah,
your head. And if you do find yourself moving more towards the, well, I don't want this, I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this anymore, then just try to reframe that question to what do we want instead? If we don't want to be feeling this, what do we want to be
yeah.
feeling? If we don't want to be doing this, what do we want to be doing?
Mm,
And using those questions can just really help you to get clear.
yeah. And I think another thing I would just add to this as well, and again, we have definitely referred to this in previous episodes, but I think often when people are thinking about the goal, the thing, the what, um, often they are thinking about what should I do? And that should word does come up quite a lot. And, we're not using the should word here. We're talking about what is it that you actually most want? What are you going to be most excited about? What are you going to be most proud of? Not necessarily, what is that thing that you think others are expecting?
Yeah.
It's kind of because this is about defining the goal for yourself for the right reasons, not
Yeah.
kind of not defining the goal based on what you think others' expectation is of you. And there is a big, big difference. So, yeah, I think if you find yourself kind of almost thinking, using that word should, I would just challenge that, really
Yes.
challenge that, because often that is going to lead you down a path that isn't your own path.
Yeah, and we've definitely talked about that should because it's even sometimes very subconscious because it might come
Yeah,
from an authority figure where we think we should be doing something based on what we've believed about others or what people have told us in the past. So, and it can feel quite selfish to think about what do I want? Because I get this from
yeah,
heads of procurement, like senior procurement leaders who've got a team. They feel that it's selfish to be focusing on their own development, and far from it. It's that oxygen mask analogy. If you
yeah,
can't help others if you're not helping yourself.
yeah,
So it'd be different if they were coming and saying, "I only want to develop myself and I don't care about my team." That's
yeah,
not the angle they come from. So definitely that should can
yeah,
carry a lot of connotations for people. So it's
yeah,
definitely worth, like you say, Donna, you've got to challenge that what do I want and not have
yes,
that feeling of it being selfish.
yeah, yeah. Um, And then, really, I think it's important then to start to think about, that goal, whatever that goal is, like really kind of asking yourself questions about, do you think this goal is possible? Is it actually
Mm.
achievable?
Yeah.
This is, I think a really important thing. Yeah, really, really kind of, understanding that because you want to set yourself up. I mean, ideally, it's for some people it may well be a stretching kind of a stretching goal, but actually you don't want to be identifying something that just there is no way that that could possibly happen for you. So it's really sense checking, how achievable and is it achievable?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually that thing about is it achievable can actually give us, as the coach, a lot of
Yeah,
information as well, because we work with beliefs and how people feel about themselves and such. And so to even pose that question, is it achievable, gives us and the individual a lot of information about whether they really believe in this goal or believe in their capabilities to get there. Because
yeah,
that for me as a coach is a big clue as to what sort of work I need to do with them on it.
yeah. And
You know?
it's not necessarily, I think the thing is like, a very, very stretching goal, that is actually quite away from where you are right now. It's not about can I go from where I am right now to that goal immediately. This is going to be step by step by step, and you might not necessarily be able to see the entire path just yet,
Mm.
and it's not about necessarily mapping out each part of the journey, in loads of detail, but it's kind of, working out what's the next step and what's the next step and what's the next step.
That's a great point as well, because I think, starting with the end in mind is always a thing that I work towards, but I'm always flexible on how I get there with the client, because there'll be other things that might not have come to light yet on what's getting in the way. So it's definitely a very good question. It's such a simple, I mean, both of these questions we've posed so far are actually quite simple ones, and we very rarely sit and reflect, and we've obviously talked about
Yeah.
self-reflection quite a lot. But to actually just go, okay, let's just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes and get really specific on what I want to be different for me.
Yeah. Because I think the thing is, like, having the goals, like, we know that when you focus your time and your effort and your energy, on something in particular, like, I mean, anything is possible, really. I do believe that if
Mm.
if you kind of, you put yourself in a good position to kind of make it happen, and you've got the right plan, etc., and the right mindset. The mindset is massive. Um, but I think, oh, I've lost my thread. What I was saying, brilliant.
Happy New
That was
Year.
it.
Too many sherries.
Far too many sherries and chocolates. But yeah, I think just what we focus on most is generally where we see the biggest impact. And, the thing is, things are only possible if we put our time and energy and focus into them. So,
Mm,
this is, such a valuable exercise, but really making sure as well the thing is the right thing. It's the
mm,
thing that matters, because actually, if it doesn't matter, well, let's not bother. Let's
mm,
not bother putting the time, the effort, the emotion, the energy into it if it isn't the right thing. So this is the kind of start point, really, isn't it? It's kind of just like helping you to kind of identify whether it is the right thing or not. Which does
mm.
lead us quite nicely to one of our favourite topics,
Yes.
which is values, which
Mm,
we've done an episode on before.
mm,
So definitely would recommend for anyone that hasn't listened to that previous values episode to tune in, because actually one of those sense checks when you're thinking about your goal is really thinking about how aligned is it with your values, with those things that are
mm,
most important to you right now. How in tune is it? Because if it isn't in
mm.
alignment, probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, and or you're going to get there and still not feel fulfilled by it because it wasn't the
Mm,
goal that was aligned with you in the first place. So, like you say, Donna, done an episode on values, and we love doing this sort of work with our clients because they always, certainly from what I've experienced, is that it's like a light bulb moment because values leave clues. So, like we might look back on times when we've been really happy in our career, or
yeah,
times when we haven't been happy in our career, and that once they know what their values are and
yeah,
how that aligns with that career, they can then go, oh, that's why. That's why I
yes,
really enjoyed doing this. That's why I
yeah,
hated doing that. That's why I used to really clash with that stakeholder. So
mm,
it's definitely, I'll be honest, when we talk about values, I remember somebody looking at me going out, going, that sounds really fluffy. And it is the most pivotal stuff that I
yeah,
think that
yeah,
has added a lot of impact to a client's coaching journey. That's for sure.
yeah. I mean, I would say I don't really think, I mean, very occasionally is a client coming saying, oh, I want to do this work on, they're not really
Yeah.
coming saying, oh, I really want to figure out my values. Can you help me?
Hmm.
And certainly a lot of the clients coming to me, like, I don't think they're necessarily expecting the depth of work that we do around this, but it, like you say, it is so foundational, like working out kind of, yeah, those things that are most important to you. I mean, it really, it can change everything for some people. Like like, some people, their minds are blown when you do this work, aren't they? Because it's just
Mm.
like you say, it kind of, a lot of stuff then makes sense when you
Mhm.
really understand. Like, it's like, yeah, like, I get that now. I get that feeling. I get that, like, again, it's like the scenario, probably a lot of people have felt this way, on paper, this should feel right. And something feels off, and often that something is something to do with, things are just, they're not in alignment with those kind of values. But I think
Mm.
even like decision making, I've definitely had clients that we've done the work, particularly in relation to what do they want to do next,
Mm.
and kind of how do you then assess prospective new bosses and organizations to see, when you scratch below the surface, actually, does it feel like there is kind of alignment there with those things that are most
Yeah.
important to you? But even I think like decision making can become easier
Mm.
when you base your decisions on your values, because actually
Absolutely.
some of those, it's just like, it's so obvious, isn't it? Sometimes like, no, that's a no, or like that's a like, absolutely, that is like
Mm.
so in tune and exciting and right. So yeah, it's so I feel like we're talking quite a bit about this, but actually, like when it comes to that goal, it's like if it's, like making sure it's the right goal,
Mm.
let's, yeah, let's not waste time and effort on things that actually don't feel like they are the right things for you.
Absolutely. And I think, going on to the talking about the fluffy side of things, this sounds like really woo as a coach now, but it's like that gut feeling, because I think our values are connected to that. It's like sometimes in our guts, if we don't feel that something's right, we don't always trust it. But then you start to learn that actually when it has worked well for you, and that for me aligns a bit with values as well. But it's definitely a huge underpinning and solid foundation for any goal you go on to achieve. So it's not just about what you want to do now in January in 2026.
Yeah,
Once you know those values and what aligns with it, like you say, the decision making becomes more confident, it becomes easier, and it
yeah,
sets you up for long-term success because you can pull on those values all the time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose that kind of that brings us quite nicely to the end of, this first episode of the series. And by the way, we are referring to episodes 26 to 29. So
Mhm.
these are the ones that, if this topic has resonated today, make sure that you kind of tune in for the next three as well.
Yes.
Because today is about helping you to really think about the what, what is it, where is it, you know, who is it you want to be, whatever that goal is. And it's just, hopefully, when you go away and think about this, it's going to help you to just really just sense check, like, are you setting yourself up to focus on the right things, those things that actually really truly matter to you?
Yeah, great point. And just to, I know we've referred to a couple of former episodes, which we will put in the newsletter as well, but just to add additional information to those questions that we've posed today, in case that you're not sure about values, for example. So episode number 9 is the episode on values. And I'd also like to point people in the direction of episode number 1, which was around
Yeah.
positioning ourselves, because we talk about the what do you want and what
Mm,
you think you should. And then also I think episode number 10, which is about ownership, is really interesting when it comes to the is it achievable part of the goal.
mm.
So that could also be quite useful there. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And I think also, potentially a more recent one that we've done, kind of planning for success as
yes,
well. I
that's num
think, so, so yeah, there's quite a few, but look, you don't need to go back to those episodes, but if you want to, I guess what we're saying here is if you want to delve deeper, and either revisit some of those former episodes if you've been tuning in from the beginning, or if you're new to us, and some of you might even be joining us today for the first time, and hello, particularly if that is the case. But yeah, just I think, yeah, they are some of the very relatable ones that definitely, if you want to go deeper, then it's worth kind of listening to those ones as well.
totally
Yeah.
brilliant.
So so definitely have a look at the newsletter that comes out, so there will be a newsletter coming out tomorrow. And yeah, have fun with this. These goals can really make a massive difference to you professionally, personally. And if you choose the right ones, like it could be so transformational for some of you. So yeah, good
Mhm.
luck with this part. And feel free, as always, we say this, but if you've got any questions on any of this, like if you do want to ask us, or even like if you want to share, holding yourself accountable, if you want to
Mm,
share the goal with us, feel free to, like privately, or on a post, however, because sometimes actually, as Laura said, writing it down, it helps. sharing it absolutely helps as well. So feel free to use us if you want to hold yourself accountable as well.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant point. So thank you for tuning in to today. And so we will see you in the next episode for the second part of this series, where we will help you to continue building upon that goal. Because remember, we're setting you up for success here. It's not a flash in a pan goal that we want to achieve straight away. So we will look forward to seeing you in the next one. Right,
See you
take
later.
care.
Happy New Year. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Procurement Pivots. We hope today's episode gave you actionable tips to help you to continue to move forward in your procurement career.
If you enjoyed the conversation, follow our episodes, share them with others, and please support us on our social media channels for others that might be interested to tune in.